Hi, thank you for watching Digging to China. I'm Dong Shuang. After 30 years of U.S. diplomacy and escalating sanctions, Pyongyang's nuclear arsenal continues to grow. North Korea missiles get better, and the day is closer and closer when the Kim dynasty can reliably strike targets on American mainland with nuclear-armed ICBMs. During the 2019 Democratic debate, Joe Biden was asked how he would resolve the long-running nuclear crisis with North Korea. His answer? That he would work with China to help put pressure on North Korea. He said, quote, "The way we do that is we make clear to China, which I have done personally with the President of China. They, in fact, can put pressure on North Korea," unquote. That's a nice sentiment, to be sure, but Biden, like so many others, has the situation exactly backwards. The problem with U.S. strategy toward North Korea is that it continues to rely on China. For decades, American policymakers, analysts, and academics fell into the trap of mirror imaging, mistakenly believing that China would be changed from the outside through continued engagement. Today, we may have woken up from that particular illusion. But many prominent Democrats and Republicans in Washington still continue to cling to the fanciful notion that China will pressure Pyongyang to help bring about denuclearization. In short, China is doing everything possible to frustrate both UN sanctions and American diplomacy toward North Korea. Yet there remains a bizarre and baseless Washington consensus that Beijing, if properly incentivized, will help resolve the long-running nuclear crisis on the Korean Peninsula. In this way, for more than 2 decades, U.S. policymakers have intentionally pulled China into North Korea policy. The playbook is well worn. First, call for denuclearization. Then, when asked how to achieve that outcome, call on Beijing to help lean on Pyongyang to make it so. But the hard truth is that Beijing has no interest in playing ball, and indeed never has. Therefore, if the United States and North Korea want to make real bilateral progress, they need to accept that China is part of the problem rather than part of the solution. During the last 30-plus years, U.S. policymakers have pursued an enticing goal: the abolition of North Korea's existing nuclear arsenal and a verifiable North Korean commitment to remain nuclear-free. It is politically impossible for an American president to abandon this goal. It is impossible as a practical matter for an American president to achieve it. In foreign policy, an unshakable commitment to an unreachable goal is neither a sign of wisdom nor a harbinger of success. During the so-called unipolar moment of the 1990s, when the U.S. faced no serious rivals or competition around the world, American policymakers could indulge themselves in impossible dreams with few immediate real-world consequences. Today, a rising China aligned with a hostile Russia poses the greatest threat to vital American interests since the height of the Cold War. And the U.S. foreign policy needs to be more grounded. The nuclear impasse isn't the only factor shaping U.S.-North Korea relations. North Korea is a small country with limited resources on the border of an expansionist superpower. North Korea almost entirely relies on China for diplomatic and economic support. For the Kim dynasty, whose core political philosophy is built around the concept of survival, self-reliance, and unconditional sovereignty, near total dependence on China is bad, even scary. There should be no illusions here. For North Korea, foreign policy is a tool to maintain the status quo at home. North Korea is not interested in changing its political system or in giving up its nuclear deterrent. But the older logic is still in play today. The stronger China gets, the more distance Pyongyang desires to keep from Beijing. Under the right circumstances, North Korean foreign policy could change with blinding speed. Pyongyang isn't accountable to anyone domestically. The Kim dynasty can flip its foreign policy as easily as Stalin dropped years of anti-fascist rhetoric to sign his pact with Hitler. Kim Jong-un's flirtation with Donald Trump suggests that there is real interest in Pyongyang in exploring different kinds of relationships with America. The hope that another round of sanctions will bring North Korea to its knees is a distraction. While conditions in Pyongyang are so desperate that even foreign diplomats report an inability to get basic goods, China and North Korea look set to open cross-border trade later this month. Both China and Russia are likely to scale back their sanctions enforcement as relations with the US continue to worsen. Instead of devising more futile strategies to achieve the impossible, President Biden's Korea strategists would do well to think hard about what could be gained by facilitating North Korea's escape from China's orbit. Beginning to address issues like the Japanese citizens abducted over the years and still held in the North, reducing tensions on and around the Korean Peninsula, and negotiating moratoriums on testing new missiles and weapons could help stabilize Northeast Asia in ways that benefit both the US and Pyongyang. A pathway to détente that sidesteps the nuclear issue could unite American allies and consolidate a favorable balance of power in a critical theater. The US has made hard moral compromises before, siding with Stalin against Hitler during World War II and with Mao against Soviet Union. Such decisions are never pleasant and often lead to complications down the road. The ugly moral choices and all-out struggle with China would inevitably entail is one reason America should do its best to avoid such a contest. But if the current confrontation with Beijing continues to develop, Washington will need to think hard and perhaps very fast about how US-North Korea relations might evolve. Difficult and threatening as North Korea can be, it is not the gravest threat either to human rights or to American strategic interests in the Indo-Pacific. If the US must, it can and should act resolutely with allies against destabilizing North Korea actions in Northeast Asia. But quietly exploring other options is an avenue the Biden administration should not neglect. Thank you for watching. Please leave a comment and subscribe to my channel. Just click the subscribe button right here. I will see you again shortly.